The Crucifixion of Jesus, the unknown, truths behind the most famous execution in history. Hook, the question. History never answered. What if the most famous death in human history is also the most misunderstood? What if the event that shaped billions of beliefs was recorded incompletely, remembered selectively, and interpreted through faith rather than fact? The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is not just a religious story. It is a historical event wrapped in silence, contradictions, and unanswered questions. Tonight, we are not here to repeat what you already know. We are here to explore what history never fully explained. The silence of Rome, why official records are missing. The Roman Empire was obsessed with order and documentation. Executions, trials, and punishments were usually recorded with bureaucratic precision. Yet when it comes to the crucifixion of Jesus, Rome is strangely quiet. Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea, was responsible for authorizing executions. Logically, such a decision should have been documented, but no official Roman execution report describing Jesus' death has survived. Some historians argue that Jesus was considered insignificant by Roman standards. He was not a military leader, not a political ruler, and not an armed rebel. From Rome's perspective, he may have been just another provincial troublemaker. Others suggest something more unsettling, that later events made the crucifixion politically inconvenient to preserve. As Christianity spread through the empire, the lack of early Roman documentation became a gap filled almost entirely by religious texts. This absence forces historians to rely heavily on the Gospels, texts written decades later by believers rather than neutral observers. Who really ordered the crucifixion? The Gospels describe a complex interaction between Jewish religious authorities and Roman power. According to the narrative, the Sanhedrin accused Jesus of blasphemy, but only Rome had the authority to execute. Pontius Pilate is portrayed as hesitant, even reluctant, washing his hands of responsibility. But Roman governors were not known for moral hesitation. Pilate, in particular, had a reputation for brutality. This raises a troubling question. Was Pilate truly reluctant? Or was this portrayal shaped to reduce Roman blame and place responsibility elsewhere? Some scholars believe the Gospel writers softened Roman guilt to protect early Christians living under Roman rule. If so, the trial of Jesus may have been reshaped by political survival rather than historical accuracy. The physical reality of crucifixion. Crucifixion was one of the most brutal execution methods ever devised. It was designed not only to kill but to humiliate, terrorize, and warn. Victims often died from asphyxiation rather than blood loss. As the body sagged, breathing became increasingly difficult. Death could take hours or even days. The Gospels, however, suggest that Jesus died relatively quickly. This has puzzled both medical experts and historians. Roman soldiers were trained executioners. If Jesus died faster than expected, something unusual may have occurred. Some theories suggest extreme physical exhaustion from scourging. Others raise controversial questions about whether Jesus truly died on the cross or entered a state of unconsciousness. This question alone has fueled centuries of debate. The cross itself. What did it really look like? The image of a traditional cross is deeply ingrained in Christian symbolism, yet the original texts never clearly describe its shape. Roman crucifixion devices varied widely. Some victims were tied rather than nailed. Others were crucified on structures that resembled a T-shape or even a simple vertical stake. Archaeological evidence of crucifixion is extremely rare. Only one confirmed skeletal remain of a crucified individual has ever been found from the Roman period, and even that case raises unanswered questions. Without clear evidence, the exact form of Jesus' cross remains unknown, leaving one of Christianity's central symbols historically uncertain. The final words: history or theology. The four Gospels record different final words spoken by Jesus. Some emphasize abandonment, others forgiveness, others completion. These differences are often explained theologically rather than historically. Each Gospel writer had a message to convey, and the final words of Jesus became a way to express that message. Were these exact quotations spoken on the cross? Or were they later theological constructions meant to define who Jesus was, believed to be? The absence of a single consistent account suggests that meaning may have mattered more than memory. Conclusion: a death that still divides the world. The crucifixion of Jesus is not merely an event buried in the dust of ancient history. It is a fracture line that runs through time itself, splitting cultures, shaping faiths, igniting conflicts, and inspiring hope. 2,000 years later, it remains one of the most debated moments in human existence, not because it is fully understood, but because it never has been. On a hill outside Jerusalem, a man was executed by the Roman state. That fact, at least, is widely accepted. But everything beyond that point dissolves into uncertainty. Who exactly was he? A revolutionary? A prophet? The Son of God? Or a symbol later transformed by belief? History gives us fragments. Faith fills in the gaps, and between them lies a vast territory of unanswered questions. The sources we rely on were written decades later, shaped by memory, theology, and survival. Political forces had motives. Religious communities had reasons. Empires rewrote narratives. Silence swallowed contradictions. What remains is not a single clear account, but layers of interpretation stacked upon one another like sediment over time. Yet perhaps the crucifixion endures not because of what can be proven, but because of what it represents. A moment where power confronted innocence, where fear crushed truth, or where truth challenged power. A moment where suffering was either meaningless brutality or the ultimate act of redemption, depending on who is asked. For believers, the cross is salvation. For skeptics, it is mythology. For historians, it is a puzzle. For philosophers, it is a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest questions about justice, sacrifice, and suffering. And for the world at large, it is a symbol so powerful that it has shaped laws, art, morality, and entire civilizations. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect is not what we do not know, but how fiercely we defend what we believe we know. The crucifixion forces humanity into a confrontation between faith and doubt, history and belief, silence and meaning. It asks whether truth is discovered or inherited. And so the final question remains open, echoing across centuries, refusing to settle into certainty. Did we inherit the truth of what happened on that cross? Or only the story that was strong enough to survive? The answer, like the crucifixion itself, may forever stand at the crossroads between history and belief, waiting for each generation to decide what it means to them.